What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical average American here today to react and learn about things foreigners should never do in Japan. Now, I'm a little worried about this topic because I was thinking about it, and Americans might actually be the total opposite of Japanese in the best way possible. Americans are loud and obnoxious and super opinionated and oftentimes disrespectful and selfish. In America, we are taught to focus on ourselves and don't really worry about the community. And so we are just so different to Japanese culture that I am actually really worried that if Americans were to visit Japan, we would probably do everything wrong. So I'm very curious to see this video here where I'm going to learn about things foreigners should not do in Japan so that we are not disrespectful and all of those kinds of things. So in this video, this guy is going to walk around asking Japanese people questions about stuff that you should not do in Japan, and I'm curious to see how different things are in Japan versus things you should and shouldn't do in America. So I'm excited for this. So with that being said, let's take a look.
外国人が日本でしてはいけないこととか気をつけた方がいいこととかってありますか？
してはいけないこ
マナー
と
とかルールで日本。
Yeah.
外で飲むビールとか
ダメですか？結構日本人してるイメージ僕ある。
Is it legal to drink alcohol in public? Because in America, you can kind of drink alcohol outside at parties, but you can't like walk around public parks or out in the open drinking, getting drunk. So I'm curious what the law is in Japan.
でもなんか外国の方の方がなんかオープンなのでこう他人を巻き込みすぎちゃう騒音とか。
なるほど。なんか外で飲むこと自体は OK だけど、飲むなら静かに飲んで人に迷惑か
Oh!
けたりとか大声で喋ったりしないっていう。
Oh, now I get it. Yeah. Being drunk and in public is very different for Americans. When Americans are drinking alcohol in public, we are very loud, very annoying, very rowdy, and disruptive. And so that would be completely unacceptable in Japan, by the sound of it. Americans do get annoyed at each other over that, but we kind of accept it as just a normal kind of thing of life. But in Japan, that would be totally disrespectful, and if you're gonna drink, you need to maintain your composure and not disrupt everyone else like Americans would normally do. All right, that makes a lot of sense.
日本人と接するときに気をつけた方がいいこととかありますか？接し方とか振る舞いとかにおいて。
Right.
どうだろう。なんか片言でもいいので最初もし声かけてくるときは下手くそでもいいので日本語の方が安心しますね。
確かにそれ。
Oh, wow. That's really valuable to know. Because I think a lot of Americans, if we know a little bit of Japanese, we would be a little embarrassed to try to speak to Japanese people in Japanese. We would think that we sound dumb and we'd be embarrassed. And that it's interesting to hear it from a Japanese perspective that Japanese actually really enjoy that. And I guess it comes across as, at least we're putting in some effort and showing some respect in attempting to use the native Japanese language. So, yeah, I guess Japanese are less judgmental as well, or at least appreciate the effort. But Americans would probably assume, oh, Japanese probably speak better English than our ability to speak Japanese, so I'm gonna not embarrass myself. But so this is good to know.
めっちゃ僕も思ってて、日本人が アメリカとか海外行った時は英語頑張って絶対話そうとするのに、外国人が日本に来る時は英語を通そうとする。
Right, right,
最
right.
初に英語で勝ってこられると苦手な方はちょっとこう
Yeah.
グッて引いちゃうんで。
なるほど、ありがとうございます。
Yeah.
あの
Oh, that makes so much sense. That actually makes so much sense. And at least start the conversation in Japanese. You know, to establish like being friendly and polite, because you're in Japan, like everyone speaks Japanese. So try to start the conversation in Japanese, and then maybe if you're friendly, maybe the Japanese person will try to speak some English to you once you explain everything. That does seem like a much better way of doing things. That makes a lot of sense to me.
日本のマナーとかルールで外国人に気をつけてほしいことだったりとかしてほしくないこととかってありますか？
電車とかでマスクしてない人が多いなって思います、外国人。
Ah,
だからマスクしてほしいなって思うこと。
okay, okay.
その人たちについて率直にどう思いますか？
なんか全然国的にはしなくてもいい国もあるじゃないですか。でもなんか日本だから、日本のルールでなんか守ってほしいなって。
日本人はみんなしてるですもんね。
はい。
なるほど。
Oh, wow. That makes a lot of sense too. I mean, again, it just goes back to respect. Japan is really, it's important to have respect in Japan. And I think if you're traveling outside of your country to another country like Japan, you need to abide by the local rules, by the rules of that country. You are a visitor, and you are being allowed to be there, and you need to be courteous and respectful. So yeah, Americans definitely, if you are supposed to wear masks on a train in Japan, just because we do it differently here doesn't mean you get to do everything your own way. You need to be respectful when you're in Japan and you're in other countries. I totally agree with her here.
電車の中じゃなくて道端とかはどうですか？普通の通りとかで外でマスクしてない人についてはどう思いますか？
Okay.
は外だとなんか今別になんていうか
Okay.
夏とかしなくてもいいって国でもなってるんで、外だとあんまり思わないかもしれないですけど、なんか密集してたら飲食店
Again, like even if Americans don't agree, you need to follow Japanese laws and Japanese rules when you're in Japan. So yeah, I'm not exactly sure what the mask rules are in Japan, but if you visit Japan, it's up to you to learn all of that. You need to take the initiative and learn. Yeah, you need to show that respect. I definitely agree with this.
飲食店でバイトしてるんですけど、入り口を通らないでスッともう自分でこう席に着いちゃう人とかたまにいて、外国の方だとなんか並ぶっていうのがあんまりその海外の文化だとないのかなって思うので、そこはちょっとなんか気になる感じがあります。
確かにレストラン入るときに入り口で、スタッフの方とかに、この、テーブルに座ってくださいとかって言われるまでは、待つ。
待ってほしい。
なるほど。
Okay. In America, we do this exactly the same. So I think this would be other cultures around the world visiting Japan. Americans should know this. When we walk into a restaurant here in the United States, you wait for the staff to give you a seat, to tell you where to sit. So that's actually nice to know that it's exactly the same in restaurants in Japan. So I don't think Americans would actually do this. It's probably other people from other countries.
ありがとうございます。外国人が日本に来たときに気をつけてほしいこととか守ってほしいルールとかなんかありますか？
Okay.
そうですね、順番とか列とかをちょっとあんまり守らないというか、あんまり理解できてない外国人の方がいるのかなってちょっと思ったりするんで、そういうところをちょっと、理解できたり。
Oh, Americans are aware of this. We just don't do it. Americans are very bad at lines, especially if there's not like a rope or some kind of designated pathway set up. Americans will just completely cut in line or pretend like there's no line, or it really, you should expect anything from Americans with lines. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Americans are not good at at waiting in line and identifying lines in Japan. But I don't know. As an American, I also get mad at other Americans who cut in line and stuff like that. So it's nice to hear in Japan that waiting in line is respected and everyone kind of abides by that. I would love that. I would love that more here in America.
分かってほしいなと思います。
確かに日本ってエレベーター乗る時も、電車乗る時も並びますもんね。
Oh.
自転車に乗ってる。
Oh, wow. That's actually really important. That's huge. Wait a minute. So, he said that Japanese line up before getting on elevators and trains. So, that is different. In America, we don't get in a line to go into an elevator or on a train or stuff like that. So, I wouldn't have known that. So, I would have accidentally come across as being rude. So in Japan, if you're waiting for things like even an elevator, you get in a line. Okay, that is something that I didn't know. Okay, that's an important one.
はいはい。
自転車に乗ってる時に音楽を結構大音量でかけてる方とかいらっしゃったりするんですけど、
Yeah.
ちょっといきなり音楽が鳴ったりするとびっくりすることとかあるんで。
イヤホンしろよって。
Yeah,
確かにイヤホンを。
yeah. Like I was kind of saying at the beginning, Americans really are only thinking about themselves. Americans are very bad at noticing how we are affecting others and Americans don't really care how they're affecting others and if they're disrupting everyone. Americans, we really have a culture of worry about yourself. Take care of yourself. And so Americans really don't empathize or consider how they might be disrupting other people. So yeah, people will blast loud music at all kinds of places in America for sure. And that is very annoying, but it's also like normal. So we all kind of deal with it here. But again, if you're in Japan, you need to realize that's considered very rude. And in Japan, there's such a big culture of respect. You need to understand how you're affecting other people and how rude that is. So that's an important one. Yeah.
気をつけた方がいいこととか、日本でしてはいけないことってありますか？
日本人ってやっぱりシャイですから、あまりガーッと来られるとやはり恐怖感を持ったりするので、
Right.
まあゆったり優しく話しかけてしつこく聞かないとか。
Oh man. I feel like he is directly calling out Americans. Americans are very friendly, but we're also very aggressive and loud. And that's just normal American kind of culture. We talk to each other, we're curious. We will, go up to somebody we don't know and ask a question, maybe even a personal question. And basically in America, anything goes. Like, people will just say anything and do anything, and there's not so much of a culture of respect. So it is very important for Americans to realize in Japan, you need to be respectful. That's the key thing. You need to take it down a notch, calm down, lower your voice, and if you need to talk to someone Japanese, you need to be calm, because the American version of calm is probably really, really extreme and loud to Japanese, honestly.
そういうことが必要かなと思いますけどね。
なるほど。ニューヨークに住んでたんですよね。
そうですね。
Oh.
6年間ですけど。
Oh,
OK
boy.
だけどニューヨークではダメだったこととか、逆にニューヨークではしてよかったけど日本ではしてダメなこととかってありました？
Oh my gosh. If he lived in New York, then he is very, very used to loud, obnoxious Americans.
鉄道で郊外から通勤してたんですけど、新聞を読み終わったら、床に捨てて 言っちゃうんですよアメリカ人って
そうなんですか。
Yeah.
そういうのはちょっと抵抗ありましたね。
日
Yeah.
本は絶対ないですね。
ないですね。昔はあったと思いますけど。
Before we con
That's funny because it's so different in Japan. Like that they're even laughing a little bit about it, aren't they? They're actually laughing about how different it is because that would not surprise me at all in America if I saw people like if I see someone litter or throw trash on the ground or put their newspaper on the ground, that's completely normal and it doesn't really faze me. I'm not very shocked. I think that's rude. Like there's no reason to do that. You should put that in a trash can. I think that, but no one really says anything and people are just littering and putting trash everywhere, especially in American cities. There's trash everywhere. So, it's in Japan, like somewhere like Tokyo, it's pretty shocking how clean everything looks and how respectful everyone is, and I'm not at all surprised that they are kind of shocked and alarmed that Americans put newspaper on the ground. Yeah, that is sadly kind of normal.
気をつけてほしいこととか、外国人が日本でしてはいけないことってありますか？
まあ基本的になんかまあ外国人ってやっぱり電車とか公共の交通手段で結構うるさかったりとか、なかなかそのなんていうんでしょう、空気を読むのが慣れてないと思うので、そういうところはやっぱり気を使ったりしなきゃいけないのかなと思いますね。
Yeah, Americans. It's not that Americans are trying to be rude. It's just that Americans in the United States, we don't think about how we are affecting other people. So it's just normal here for everyone to be loud and kind of disrupting things. So the culture is just so different. And honestly, I really, really enjoy hearing about the Japanese perspective on this because it sounds so nice. I really admire the Japanese culture for how much Japanese people really care about each other and care about not disrupting each other and being rude. That is so refreshing. That is so nice. I'm actually very jealous of that because, like, this is very typical American behavior, just to be loud and not really care.
日本人と接するときに外国人が気をつけた方がいいこととかありますか？振る舞いとか話し方とかそういう違いとか。
そうです。多分なんか人ってやっぱりその自分のパーソナルスペースってあるじゃないですか。距離感。
Right.
日本人って多分それがすごい広いと思うんですよね。距離が広く取る人たちなので、やっぱりそれをこうなんかズケズケと入ってっちゃったりするとやっぱりいけないかなっていうのはありますよね。
確かに。
Right. In America, yeah. Americans do like personal space, but at the same time, like, in America, I expect anything from an American. Like, nothing surprises me. Sometimes Americans will get way too close to you, and invade your personal space. And it's not a huge deal, but Americans still want personal space. But I think in Japan, the threshold is a little bigger. I think Japanese probably want a little more personal space than what is normal for an American. So again, this is just all stuff that Americans really need to learn about and be respectful of and mindful of. So this is good stuff.
ハグしないですもんね。
しないですし、
Oh.
そうですね。あとはなんか初めての人にこうなんかそういうハイファイブとかもしないです。ちょっとそうするのが慣れ慣れしいよねって書いては逆にでも外国の方ってそれをフレンドリーに受け止めてもらおうと思ってやってるけど、逆になんかそういうふうに受け止め逆効果なのですごい損かなと思います、ね。
確かに。
Wow. That was fascinating. This is so interesting. Yeah, in America, we will high five each other. We will hug each other. Like, even strangers, sometimes, not too often, but if you're being very, very friendly in America, people will hug or handshake or high five. We will touch each other, for sure. Americans will make contact with each other. And in Japan, Americans might think that we are being friendly, when in fact, it's having the opposite effect. It's being rude and invading personal space. So, yeah, really, really interesting. I'm actually starting to understand that Americans probably do a lot of really rude things in Japan unintentionally, like by accident, because we're just ignorant of how the culture works. And that's not an excuse, but maybe that kind of is an explanation for Japanese people. If you're wondering why Americans are so strange and disrespectful and loud and annoying sometimes.
気をつけた方がいいこととか、外国人に守ってほしいマナーとかなんかありますか？
エレベーターですかね。よくショッピングモールにエレベーターあるんですけども、これを左側にいるっていうことですかね。
Oh, the left side. In America, you're supposed to stay on the right side. Oh, this is very important.
はい。
確かに
はいですね。
確かにそうですね。
僕サウナ好きでめっちゃサウナ行くんですけど、これ外国人に限らずなんですけど、特に守ってほしいのは水風呂入る前に汗流してほしいです。
Oh.
それは確かに多分あれですよね。銭湯とか温泉行っても先にシャワー浴びたりとかっていうのが大事ですよね。外国人に
Again, that's a very specific one. That just kind of goes back to Americans not worrying about how they're affecting other people. We don't have too many saunas and baths in America, so Americans probably just don't know how to behave in those situations in general. But I could definitely see Americans not bathing when going into a public bath and not really caring, just not thinking of other people once again.
外国人に気をつけてほしいマナーだったりとかしてはいけないことって何かありますか？
これしていけないっていう感覚ってなんていうの、その人とその人の間で生じることだから、
Right.
一般的にどうのかじゃないと思うので、その人は自分と今どういう関係なんだろうかみたいなのはちょっと考えた方がいいかもしれないね。だからなんていうか、日本人だから例えばみんなが親切だとかみんながシャイだとかっていうわけではなくて、外国人だから。
Wow, this guy is very kind of philosophical, and I really, really appreciate how Japanese people like this guy seem to understand the perspective of others, like even Americans, like that. He understands Americans, we do stuff our own way and we don't understand everything, and we are a little ignorant about this stuff, so you have to kind of approach things trying to understand the other person's perspective. I really appreciate that kind of thinking.
外国人だからっていうことですごくなんていうの、例えば握手したりとかハグしたりとかっていうのがみんなが OK じゃないと思うんですよね。
That's true. And his other point, like, you should not generalize people. Don't generalize Japanese or Americans. Everyone is their own unique individual person, and you need to treat them like an individual and what makes them comfortable.
人によるんですね。
だからなんだろう、自分とその人との距離感をちゃんと確認しないと、それは別に国とか生まれとかのことじゃなくて、その人と私との間っていう
Wow, I like that. I like that a lot.
ことかなって
ありがとうございます。
思います。
Okay, thank you for watching so far. How was
That was fantastic. That was great. That was by Takashi from Japan, and I liked it. I have to give that video a like. I really appreciate the Japanese people in this video and how open and honest they are about these kind of topics, and also how patient and understanding the Japanese people in this video are. Everyone seemed so friendly, so nice. And that's even the way that the Japanese people in this video speak and present themselves was way different to interviewing random Americans in America. It's just a whole different demeanor. And it's really calming and soothing and respectful, and I love it. I love it, and it doesn't surprise me that Americans need to learn about stuff that foreigners should not do in Japan. I think that's the responsibility when you're visiting Japan. You need to learn these things. So I'm happy I learned some of these things, and it actually taught me a lot about Japanese culture hearing about this stuff. So it was fascinating. A lot of this stuff I didn't even know. So it was honestly good for me too. A lot of new stuff. So I enjoyed it. Anyway, if you enjoyed this as well, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to Japan and Japanese culture, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.